Wow, that's fun. Fun hearing all that good stuff about myself.
You're the best.
Thank you. And I just say, it's so wonderful to be back here in person. I think I did one service, maybe 2 services on Zoom, and it's just not the same. It's not the same. So being in your energy is wonderful, and I love it. So today we're going to talk about holy joy. Is anybody ready for some holy joy? Woo! So we've been through some challenging times, haven't we? Anybody tired of the challenging times? Anybody want things to change?
Yes.
And how do you want it to change?
What better?
You want it to change for the better. Do you want that better to be the way you want it to be? Yeah, that's the way I want it to change for my better. I'm not, my better, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know what that is, but I don't know if that's better for you. I just know it's better for me. And that's the way most of us are. We've had things going on. Some have lost loved ones during this COVID period. We've had challenges with, do we wear masks? Don't we wear masks? Do we get vaccinated? Don't we get vaccinated? We've had all of these discussions with people. Some agree, some don't, some get angry, some just say, let's go with the flow. Can we just take a breath and have some joy? I think it's time for some joy. And now we've got this other variant coming up, so does that mean we go back to masks? I'm wearing a mask, it doesn't matter. I just prefer to be on the side of the safe side of life in that respect. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy life and that I don't find joy in life. So as we see these challenges, can we have joy? Or do we just have to fall into the whole mess of joy? Because sometimes it feels like there is nothing but the hardness, I saw a sloth this last week. The slothness of life, that drudgery. Doesn't it feel that way sometimes? And then I ask you, can you see the beauty? Can you look for the butterfly that flits around? That may not stay long, but it's there. That butterfly is there to show you that life is bright, that life is beautiful, that life has purpose, that if you look for it, you will see it. So what is joy? And where do we find joy? And how do we find joy? So joy, we have a definition of joy. Well, first of all, let me say that oftentimes we look for joy outside of ourselves. And we think that we can buy joy, and we can. I had a friend one time that said, I buy a shirt, and it gives me joy for about an hour, and I buy a new car, and he said, sometimes I can get a whole month of joy out of a new car. And he said, I can get joy out of things for a period of time. But we're talking about spiritual joy. So where do we get spiritual joy? Because what I know about spiritual joy is it just lasts. Spiritual joy is like a peace that comes within us and stays. It's not something that is like a butterfly that comes and goes. It stays. So spiritual joy is a good feeling in the essence of our being, in our heart, produced by the divine connection, which causes us to see the beauty of the Christ within ourselves and in the world. Now that's sometimes a little harder, right? Sometimes we look at people and we go, no, can't find the Christ there. But guess what? It's there. It's there. Whether we want to find it or find it, the Christ is there. So, if you are feeling like there is no joy, I invite you to look again. There is not enough money, enough beauty, enough stuff, and of power. Oh yeah, power. Power will give us joy, right? No, it will not. And a status. There's not enough out in the world that will give us joy. And joy is not about anger or fear or vulnerability. It's not about being afraid. All of that stuff does not allow us joy. One of the things I know is if there's something that we can do about those things, about being angry, about being vulnerable, if there's something we can do, then let's do it. And if there's not anything that we can do, then let's move on. Because either way, we can get to a place of joy. If there's something we can do, let's do it so we can continue living our life in joy. If there's not anything that we can do, then let's accept that so we can get back to our place of joy. I know that can be hard. So joy is found within ourselves. It's not something that we can find outside of ourselves, again, for any length of time. So I'm going to talk today about this wonderful book, and y'all may have heard about it, and you may have read it, but much of what I'm talking about today comes from The Lasting Happiness in a Changing World, the Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And if you haven't read it or listened to it, I recommend a listen to. I had the book for several years, and every time I tried to read it, I just couldn't get it. It just didn't thrill me. And one day it popped up on my audiobook as a freebie, and I put it on, and I got so involved that I now have a physical copy, an audio copy, an e-copy. I mean, it is just a book that I am finding precious, because I am finding that piece of joy that, oh, I can find the joy anywhere, anytime. And so, as you know, the Dalai Lama has gone through many changes in his life. He had to leave his country because there was war and fighting, and much of it was a result of him. So in his leaving, he was able to calm his country of Tibet down, calm the Chinese down, and get out of that situation. But to do it, he had to take off his glasses. As y'all know, he needs glasses very bad. He had to put on a uniform of the Chinese soldier, and he had to go across the Himalaya mountains with a few other people. He said he had never been so scared in his life to do this. Oh, he had to do it all at night. Did I mention that? But he had to do it because he knew it was the only way his people could be free and safe. Not free, but safe. It was the only way that the warring could stop. And so he made this trek. And people find that they have a lot of empathy with him because he made this courageous trip. And yet, if you've ever listened to the Dalai Lama or seen the Dalai Lama, he's usually laughing, smiling. He's a very happy man. And Archbishop Tutu experienced the apartheid in South Africa, and there were many people being killed. And he brought people together from different factions to work together for peace. And it was a huge production to get these people together to talk about how they could find peace in a place where they did not feel that they could have that. So both of them have come from a place of great strife, great fear, and yet they are men who are happy. They both say that their true happiness comes from within. That their true happiness is within, because that outward stuff is just transient. And it's the inner peace and the inner joy that is there, always there. It is that good feeling. It is that essence of who we are and in our heart. Now, when asked where we find this, the Tutu says it's in our head, and Dalai Lama says it's in our heart. And then they say, and they're both right, because they know it comes together. And it's the head and the heart melding together to be a part of truth. So joy is a pleasure of the five senses. We can have contentment, we can have excitement, we can have wonder and bliss, we can have all these things and feel good about it. And again, it's transient. But more importantly, joy is a way of being when it's an inner job. Joy is a way of being. It's a way of knowing God. It's a way of finding truth. So it's a self-centered attitude to find that joy. And self-centeredness can be a problem. When we are so self-centered, we don't think about other people. It can be a real problem, right? We can forget other people, just think about ourselves. And what happens before long? We are upset and we are all self-absorbed and we're angry because somebody has hurt us or haven't treated us right. But it's important that we be self-centered to a degree. And that's self-centered with wisdom, taking care of ourselves. If somebody is abusing us, if we are in a bad situation, if we are overly tired, even the Dalai Lama says he gets pretty grumpy at night when he's had a long day and he hasn't had his nap. He says, I get a little grumpy. So, he's got a life where he focuses on peace and joy and keeping himself mellow. He meditates for 5 hours a day. He gets up at 3 a.m. Oh, my. The Archbishop gives him a really hard time. He goes, that's too much meditation. He gets up at 4 o'clock and meditates for 4 hours. But they give each other a hard time and have a lot of laughter about that. So we know that joy can be an inner peace, and that self-centeredness can be a place that we need to be important and we need to take care of, and we need to take care of ourselves, and yet we don't want to go overboard and not remember that there are people out there that are bringing us joy as we focus on taking care of them. So, we can find joy in so many places, and we can find useless, unnecessary suffering if we want to. We have a choice. How many of you are going to choose useless, unnecessary suffering? Nobody? Nobody wants that? Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we think, I've got to do this, and before we know it, we're in that place of useless, unnecessary suffering. And it's not fun. It's not fun. So, let's stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. Let's look at the way that we can find ourselves in the flow of joy. The flow. I have this sentence in here, and I'm just going to say it because I think it's important. There are 1 billion people who are non-believers religiously. They're non-religious believers religiously. So what that says is that there's a lot of people that can find joy and happiness without religious belief. And I want to say that because there's a big difference between religious belief and spiritual belief. There's a big difference in religious belief, which is a group of people coming together, which I think is important. It's a group of people coming together to interact, to focus on spiritual growth, and we have each other to mirror what we don't necessarily like about ourselves. I had to say that really quickly because none of us want to admit that anybody annoys us, right? Especially in our religious group. There is nothing like having somebody sit in your spot in church, right? For you to go, oh, I'm going to have to grow spiritually today. That's my chair, and there's somebody sitting in it. Yeah. So we need people in our spiritual communities, in our religious communities, to help us grow. And we need our divine connection, our connection with spirit, to grow as well. So that's a coming together again. It's almost the head and heart thing. We come into our religious organizations to have that head experience, and then we have our one-on-one with God to have our heart experience. So, so what I want to say about the Dalai Lama and Tutu is they've had their challenges. We've all had our challenges, and we're going to have challenges. And are we going to stay in those challenges, and are we going to be stuck in the challenges? Are we going to move ahead and find our joy? So recently, last weekend, I was on a plane. Oh, I was leaving Roatan. I had had a great week of diving. And I was going to get up Saturday morning, get on a plane, and come home, be home at 8 o'clock Saturday night. However, anybody been paying close attention to the news, you will know that planes were not operating really well. So we got a text saying, don't bother to come to the airport. The flight was canceled. Okay, fine. So we're going to stay till the next day. Yay, we're going to get another day. And I will continue that story in a minute. So the Dalai Lama says that there are ways that we can get into the flow. That there are 8 pillars of joy. And that we can use these pillars in the face of difficult situations. So we're going to look at those. Let's see where we are on those slides. The 8 pillars. So, lasting happiness in a changing world. Oh, that's the name of the book, yeah. So the first 4 pillars of the mind are perspective, humility, humor, and acceptance. Those are the first 4. Those are important 4 because that's where we get kind of stuck sometimes. Perspective, how can that bring us into joy? Well, how are you looking at something? Is it horrible that I can't get on that plane? Well, not really. I can have another good day, right? So we can make a decision every morning when we wake up. Am I going to have a good day or am I going to have a bad day? What is my perception of the world? Is the world a bad place, or is the world a place that is filled with love and joy? These days, our press, our news says that the world's a bad place, right? We hear that a lot these days, yes? Am I the only one that hears that?
No.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people telling us that the world's a bad place. But from our perspective, we can make a decision about if that's true or not. So I'm going to make a decision when I wake up in the morning that the world's a good place. I don't know, you can decide to do that or not. How is the world going to look to you? Decide. Humor. Oh my gosh. Are you going to look at the world as a place that is without humor? Are you going to decide that, maybe things are kind of funny? Okay, so I got canceled on a plane. This is kind of funny, really. I got canceled and I didn't want to be canceled, but kind of funny, really. I used to work for an airline, so, I kind of know what this sort of thing is about. So I kind of had to laugh because there were people kind of yakking in my ear going, I can't believe they're doing this to us, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it happens. It happens. So there you go. Humility. Need to back up a little bit. Humility is that nobody is better than anybody else. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I am no better than that person over there yakking, telling me how bad it is that the airline's canceled. We are all the same worth in truth. Now I know we can look at people and say, well, I'm doing better than they are. I've got a job, I'm not living on the street, I'm not da-da-da-da-da. Guess what, folks? In God's world, we're all the same. We have this place where I have this place where I can never feel superior. And more importantly, I can never feel inferior. That used to be my place. I'm not good enough, I'm not da-da-da-da. You know the story, right? There's something wrong with me. I know y'all know it, even though y'all are acting like I'm. So we have these places where we think we're better than, we're less than, we think that life is without humor, and we think that the world's a bad place. But that's not true, because we get to the fourth pillar, and it comes to acceptance, and that means we get to accept the world the way it is. Oh my gosh, OMG. We get to accept the world the way it is. And that means we get to ask the question, is there something I can do about this right now? Is there some change I can make in this situation? Yes. Then jump to D. You know those forms? Yes, jump to D. No, go to the next one. So if there's something you can do about it, do it. If there's nothing you can do about it, accept it and see where you go from there. There are a lot of things in my life I've had to accept, not wanted to accept, had to accept. No choice in it. So I had to stand up and face it. The Dalai Lama said that trip across the Himalayas were that for him. He had to stand up and face it. So I had to face it. The flight was canceled. No big deal. It gets better, I promise. So we have pillars that we can look at and use and make decisions about. And we have the ability to make choice. We have the ability to make choice. Now, it is Sunday morning, and I go to the airport, and I get on my plane, and my plane takes off, and it flies from Roatan, and it's going non-stop to DFW. But oh my, DFW has a thunderstorm. So it overflies, and it goes to San Antonio. Yay! My car's parked at San Antonio. I'm going to be able to get off. But I have to go through immigration and customs. Sorry, we're not letting anybody off. No, you can't get off. We don't care that you're willing to go through customs and immigration. No, you cannot get off. 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours later, they decide to take off back to DFW. As they start taxiing out, my flight from DFW to San Antonio cancels. Oh God, it cancels. It's the last flight of the day. Okay, no big deal. No big deal. So we fly into DFW. We land. Oh, they can't get to a gate. And so we sit out on the tarmac for 1 hour waiting for a gate. Now there are people on the plane that are at this point pitching a fit.
Yeah.
Pitching a fit. But I'm here to tell you there's absolutely nothing we can do. So I went down this. Okay, perspective. Yeah, I've been on the other side of it. I know how awful it is. So I'm not going to beat up the flight attendant. Humility. Oh gosh, I'm just like everybody else on this plane. So no reason for me to get mad or think I'm better than them, that I deserve special service. Humor. Well, let's see if we can find something to laugh about. Not a whole lot, but okay. We'll give it a try. Well, maybe we'll watch a funny movie. And acceptance. Acceptance is where something can change. Acceptance is an action place. Something can now change. I can either sit back, relax, finish my audiobook, or be angry and annoyed and jump up and down and go bother the flight attendants and all that sort of thing. I am happy to say, way beyond my wildest dreams, I was in an accepting mood. It was strange. I will tell you that in the meantime, my son had to fly from Roatan to Miami, and from Miami to Dallas-Fort Worth, and they left Miami, and they got to the Texas-Louisiana border, and they had to turn around and go back to Miami because there were no gates in DFW. So he had to spend the night in Miami. It was amazing, folks. It was amazing. So the second 4 pillars is forgiveness, gratitude. Well, yeah, really? I don't think so. Compassion and generosity. It is forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. Now, you understand those, right? We've talked about those before. I know you have. I've talked about them when I've been here. So, generosity. Can you be generous? Are we truly children of God? And are we truly rich in spirit? Now, I'm not talking about taking your money out and throwing it away when you don't have it. But I am talking about being generous in spirit. If somebody needs something and you've got it to give it. You know, if you've got something sitting in your house, oh gosh, I've got so many things sitting in my house I don't need. Give it away when you hear somebody needs it. You don't have to sell it like you've been planning on doing for the last 5 years. Be generous. Be generous in spirit. Generosity is giving of service, giving to others. It is freeing us from expecting something in return. So give. Give just because you can.